Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining me. This is kind of a different video. Uh, this is talking about going to the gynecologist. Okay, so I once was a part of a podcast. It didn't work out. That's a story for another day, if ever, but it didn't work out. And anyway, in the meantime, I used to come up with the majority of the topics, that we discussed. And one of the topics, by the way, I'm using Lush Super Milk spray. It says something like it's supposed to be for locks, but I am just using it on my curly natural 4B hair. So there you go. Anyhow, back to the point is that I I had brought up the topic about going to the gynecologist because earlier that year I had gone to the gyno and I had picked this lady off of ZocDoc, which I think ZocDoc is wonderful for the record. But I picked her to do my well woman checkup or whatever they call it, and I'm not gonna lie, I picked her because she was black and a woman. And I've only had one male doctor that I can think of that ever did a gynecological exam on me that I can think of. And actually, he wasn't even a doctor, he was a nurse practitioner. My embarrassing story with that, and it's a short one, is that I was breastfeeding my daughter, but I thought that I wasn't making enough milk, and I was told that I probably wasn't making enough milk by the women at the hospital, so I supplemented with formula. That's important because of what happens next. So I was supplementing my breast milk with formula, which means I was not fully breastfeeding my daughter. If you fully breastfeed your daughter, then, or your child rather, then it can make your period go away because something about, I don't know if it's like the prolactin or something, but something stops you from having a period, ovulating, I think, all that. That's why if you're fully breastfeeding, then it's harder to get pregnant. As I understand it, something along those lines. Look it up for yourself, though. Don't go by me. I'm not a medical expert, and I don't have the technical details. So, on that note, I was only partially breastfeeding her. And I started bleeding. And I'm one of those really paranoid, borderline hypochondriac kind of people. So I started thinking, oh my God, I'm hemorrhaging, because I heard that that's something that can happen. It can. I think it's relatively rare, but but either way it goes. And yes, she was a vaginal birth, but I was thinking maybe my placenta wound hadn't healed and I'm just hemorrhaging or something, I don't know. So I went to the emergency room, and it turns out it was my period. My period has started almost exactly 6 weeks after giving birth. Isn't that wild? Which is about, that's about on time. So yeah. That was embarrassing, but no, I have no regrets, because better safe than sorry. I'd rather go and people like say, oh, it's just your period, than to not go and it's something tragic. So there you go. But the person who examined me was a non-black, I presume Caucasian. It was kind of hard to tell, and it's been a while, but a non-black man. And he was so gentle. He was literally the most gentle exam I've ever had down there. No kidding. And I'm thinking, is this a joke? Like, because I've had so many aggressive women that I'm thinking, no way is a guy. Like, I've heard some women say that, like, oh yeah, I'd go to a guy because guys are more gentle and all that kind of stuff. But that was me experiencing that. So that was wild. He's very, very nice, Anyway, so that's the only time I've had a male doctor to do that. Well, my experience with females, doctors and nurse practitioners, I had a woman, um, I remember her first name, and I'm so tempted to say it because I thought she was a horrible person. Um, like she really traumatized me. She was a nurse practitioner who examined me, and before she examined me, I told her, hey, I have a small opening area. You know what I'm saying? So please use a smaller speculum on me. And she told me, well, this is the smallest one we have. We don't have anything smaller than this, and got an attitude. Um, she ended up cutting me down there. Like something she did caused me to bleed down there. And it really hurt when she was done. I was traumatized and crying. And then she, near the end of the examination or about the end of the examination, pulls out a tiny one and says, oh, yeah, we did have something smaller. I'm not kidding. That was at Planned Parenthood. That was many years ago. I was still in my early to mid 20s when that happened. So, yeah. Another bad experience, actually, this one happened before, but I think they did it. Okay, so this was when we were getting me treated for PCOS, but I think at that time they weren't throwing the term around heavily, so we didn't know why. Like I had this nonstop period. That's I need to do that. I guess I'll do that in this. I'll do another video on my PCOS. Anyway, but I had this nonstop period, and so I went to the doctor. It was a female doctor. She did some kind of biopsy, I want to say. I think that's what she said, something like collecting cells or something, but I don't think it was a traditional pap smear because I don't think a traditional pap hurts, This thing hurt. She was like scraping cells or something. Ugh, just the thought of it. Anyway, she gave me an Advil before she did it. And it still hurt like hell where I was bawling, okay? And bleeding and stuff. Okay. And you know, traumatized. When I was giving birth to my daughter, or actually in the hospital being induced, there was this one woman who I think she wasn't a fully fledged doctor, or she was, I think she, whatever, I think she was like still training or something, all that, because the hospital I was in, they had a lot of people who were like students and training and whatever. Anyway, she is the one who found out that I was about to deliver. But before we got to that part, where they check your cervix and everything, one time she checked my cervix after I'd been induced. It felt like she went into her shoulder. Okay, it hurt like hell. Like I was about to crawl off the bed. It was just like horrible. And I was bawling after that. Notice a theme here. And so when she had to check me before I was about to give birth, to see, if my cervix had ripened or whatever, if I was ready, she, like I had told her, I was like, somebody just checked me, which was true. Someone had just checked me like within a few hours or something of that. And I was at like 3 centimeters or something. She checked me and she was like, well, I'm just going to check again. It was the same woman who was like up to her, like, that's what it felt like she was up to her shoulder blade. I can laugh about it now. It wasn't funny at the time. And anyway, she checked me and she's like, oh yeah, you're like 9.5 centimeters dilated. And so she's like, that like her or someone else was like, you might want to get your partner, my co-parent now, whatever, you might want to get him here and he was at Target buying the car seat for our daughter. And I called him up and I said, "You have to get here right away. I'm 9.5 centimeters or whatever." And anyway.